Hey there, good afternoon, good morning, good evening. Welcome to all of it. How are you doing? My name is Deegan Williams. I am the founder and owner of Culinary Business Strategy. And please excuse the sunburn peeling, funny tan lines that I have going on. I just come back from a week of a fundraising ride from San Francisco to LA. I did something called AIDS Life Cycle, but it means that coming back, I sure do look funny with all of my peeling. So anyway, thank you for the grace in allowing me to show up looking like this. But nonetheless, I am here and excited to share something with you about brand and branding. We've been talking about the 6 steps to successful food and beverage business management. There are 6 steps, and I pulled them out, and I'm doing them actually a little bit in reverse order. I'm talking about the things that are most pressing for hospitality business owners at the moment. One is staffing, and the other one is branding. And then we're going to talk about food cost and costing next week. But this is on brand and branding. And these are intended to be short, quick webinars or seminars to get the key components of one of the steps out, and then move forward in a way that give you some tools so that you can move forward and get your business up and running or continue to improve in this particular area. And brand and branding is one of the things that is most important to me, because what happens with it is brand and branding is something that's really misunderstood. I've actually spent the last 12 years being a huge student of branding because I'm very curious about it. It is a complicated subject, and it's something that I believe in. So a brand can be described. One of the things that's tough about it is that a brand can be described in many different ways. Everybody has a different definition for it, or there are many different definitions for it, I should say. The one that I have found to be most concise has to do with a brand being a promise that exists in the mind of your customer. That is, what do you think about when you hear the name McDonald's or Mercedes-Benz or Harley-Davidson? What are the words that come to mind when you hear about that brand? That your response is the promise that exists in the mind of the customer, in your mind, right? So it's the same thing with your business. When somebody hears your business, maybe not as many as Toyota or Harley Davidson or whatever it may be, but you will have your potential customers have an idea of what it is. It's either, I don't know that place. What does that name mean? I've been there. I've heard about it. I heard it was great. I heard it was expensive. I heard it was special occasion. I heard it was for a daily sandwich. Whatever. There's something out there. That promise exists in the mind of a customer, right? And so that's really what your brand is. And then there are brand components. But before we get to your brand components, what I want to say is that your brand, being that it's the promise that exists in the mind of a customer or potential customer, it's what people think. It's the personality of your business. The most important thing to know is that your business has a brand with or without you. And so the decision that we all get to make is this something that you want to be a part of, or is this something that is happening to you? Are you working with it, or is it happening to you? Obviously, I would highly recommend that you participate in it. And today I'm hoping to give you a couple of tips. I will give you a couple of tips on how you can own your brand and how you can influence your brand in the direction that you want it to go, with or without money. I mean, it would be great if you had a ton of money to throw it at a branding agency and have them help you do it. But you can also do it yourself if you are, because the reason why I say this is so many people in the hospitality industry and restaurant owners think like marketing and branding is something that we do after the fact, or that when we're like starting to go, when we're struggling, not in the beginning. Most people don't do it in the beginning. And marketing and branding are not the same thing, but you need a brand in order to be able to market. If you market without a brand, it's pretty tricky because it's a lot of guesswork, right? So a brand is a promise that exists in the mind of your customer. Secondarily, you have a brand, whether you're participating in it or not. So you want to be in front of it. And there are components to a brand, right? Like, so literally a brand started out by meaning like the thing that happened on a cow's behind or on, livestock, right? It was burned into it. So you knew who that belonged to, who that livestock belonged to. And with that came the idea of like, oh, that's the Peterson Ranch, or that's the Smith Ranch, right? You knew what came along with it. So there's that. That's where the promise came along. And then Coca-Cola really took it off and owned it in a way that many other companies hadn't prior to that. So your brand consists of brand components, which are your logo, your font, your colors, And the thing that we most often don't talk about is how you answer the phone, how you train your staff, how you talk about your business to new oncoming staff. And that is part of your brand, right? Because if the way you communicate to your staff is the way that they're going to communicate to the customers and potential clients. So the things that you can do are the number one thing that you can do about your brand without money, the biggest influence that you can have, a positive influence that you can have on your brand without investing any green money. It's going to invest your time. So that is money, right? But also is to do it strategically, to be really clear about what your brand is. And the way that you can do that, here's the simple and quick formula. What are your core values? Like, so what are your mission? And those will form your mission and vision. And if you're really clear about who you are, what you represent, you will know how to attract and repel. Attract the people that you want to speak to and repel the people that don't want to speak to. People that are looking for Domino's pizza shouldn't be talking to you if you're doing a farm to table pizza. And conversely, people that want a farm to table pizza should not be talking to you if you want a Domino's pizza, the opposite, right? So you really want to have back to back on that. So you want to make sure that you're doing it. So you want to do it strategically, know who you are, what you represent, and speak that language, and then speak to the people that want what you have to offer. It's the most inexpensive, and most effective way to run your business, which is to speak strategically to those that want what you are selling. So you can do that by being very clear about what you sell so that you know who you're talking to and how you're talking to them. Do it strategically. Just making yourself a strategic roadmap for your brand will be the number one biggest influence on where you go. So you're not making decisions willy-nilly or based upon what you like. You have a North Star and you're measuring off of that. And then number two in that would be consistency. You answer the phone the same way every time with the same flavor. And you know, there are restaurants now that don't have uniforms. You can wear whatever you want when you're wearing whatever you want. But there are some parameters that go with it, right? Like we are hiring a particular type of people that are fashionable or not fashionable, or, you know, there's a range. You don't show up in a pink tutu and overalls. Those are so far apart or whatever. There's a certain kind of aesthetic that goes with the company, even if there's not exactly the uniforms. And that's a really strong brand statement that is totally acceptable right now. I mean, one of the good things about coming out of a pandemic is many parts of this hospitality industry are up in the air and available for negotiation. So that is great because we can redefine a whole bunch of stuff. So my number one tip was to do it strategically, to know that your brand exists more than in the logo and the font and the colors, but you want to have. And then in order to make that happen, you want to create something called a brand book. And you can do this in-house just as easily as you can pay gajillions of dollars and have a brand company do it for you. They are going to have more expertise. If you have money, absolutely, I would highly recommend that you carefully engage somebody to help you with your brand talking points, your visual brand, and your overall brand presentation. But if you can't, be strategic about it, create a brand book. And in that brand book, you have not just like blue and yellow, you have a very specific, you have the call out, the code, the CMYK or the RGB, like the actual specific color for that blue. And that will change everything in how your world works. And those consistent components will mean that you can move your brand further down the road. There's so much more that we could say about branding. I love this topic. It's one of my favorites, all-time favorites. And I would be happy to talk to you more about it. Please join me on Instagram at Culinary Business Strategy, or on Facebook in my private Facebook group, Food Biz Builder. Also on Facebook, Culinary Business Strategy, my business page. DM me in Instagram. And if you do that, I will give you a special treat out of the goodie bag. Let me know how you are implementing this in your business and what more you need so that you can continue to move forward and earn money, to become more profitable through having a really strong brand, because a really strong brand is going to attract the people that you want to sell to. That's going to attract your tribe, and they need to be spoken to. They are not just going to show up. That's what I've got for today on brand and branding. Thank you so much. I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.